We don't know how to sit with ourselves anymore.
Yeah.
We don't know how to be silent. And that is a lot of times where you get some of your greatest ideas, or where you get the downloads from, like, whatever people's beliefs are, whether it's God or the universe or whatever. But that's when you get those downloads or those moments, and that helps you with your job or helps you with your family. But we don't get them anymore because we don't sit with ourselves.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Gentle Art of Leadership podcast. We are joined today by Shannon Truax. And if you're a business owner, business leader, and you just want to get more healthy, less stressed, and take away some practical tips on how to make your life and your health better, you have to tune into this episode. Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Would you make sure to please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here? And please share this episode with somebody whose life it will make better. Shannon Truax.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome to the show.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. This has been a couple of months in the queue. And I always love starting off the podcast by how our stories connected.
Yeah, it's a great story. It's pretty fun.
How we met. It's really funny. It's an early June morning, and I've been traveling a lot leading up to more travel.
Me too.
Yeah, you too. We're going to talk about that in a minute. You get to travel all over the world and do really cool stuff.
Right.
And I'm just tired, and I'm standing in the queue. We're Southwest Airlines. I fly Southwest whenever I can, and I'm standing in this queue, and there's a kid behind me with his dad, and I just hear, "Oh, beep! This kid's gonna get sick, right?"
Right.
I go, "What do you mean?" And he's just ready to throw up everywhere. So we're finding the trash can, and I almost get thrown up on, and then we're bringing him in the plane, and you just give me the welcome,
right? And
I grab the front seat in the plane, which is the one I always love, and then I just straight pass out, right? Super, super tired. And then I remember popping up. I can't remember if you said something to me or it was the other gal that was there. Remind me her name.
I actually don't remember.
Okay.
I fly with so many people all the time.
But either way, we started talking about protecting the plane and jujitsu and self-defense.
Right.
You might have mentioned.
I saw your shirt and I was like,
yes.
Do you do jujitsu? Because it's cool that you're sitting in my front row. Protect my flight deck when I walk away.
That's what it was. And you told me some of the acronyms that you call us passengers that have, maybe some skills.
Yeah.
And so we just started connecting. And then what I thought was really cool was what you did at the end of that flight for a girl behind us. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, sometimes we have unaccompanied minors on our flights, which is kids that are underage, but they fly alone and solo, usually between mom and dad situations and stuff. And so we always have a crew or staff or somebody's with them at all times. But when they're on the plane, they're my responsibility. I want them in my vision. I want to make sure they're okay. Well, it happened to be her birthday. Mm-hmm. So sometimes for kids, for their birthday, we make them this cool crown made of snacks and stir sticks, which we have here with us. Because to add to this story, you were so excited about this.
I was did I ruin it?
No.
I thought I almost ruined it.
Well, a little bit. You were excited about it, and we were like, "Hold on, we haven't told her anything yet." And she was just the row behind you, but she had no clue. She was too busy having fun on the plane. Yeah. But so then you were super excited about it, and I was like, "Oh, well, do you want one?" And so here it is.
So this is my crown, and this was Father's Day weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was flying out and then flying back on Father's Day.
Right, yeah.
And then when I came back from the wedding, I was actually carrying this and then ran into you guys again.
Yeah, which was so awesome. I was like, how did this survive your 3-day trip? Somehow it made it through, and then you found us at the airport. So, of course, we had to take a picture and photo op, and it was just fun. Yeah,
we had the photo op, wrote a blog just about the idea of pouring into people and contributing to the lives of others and everything we do. So, just share your story a little bit. How did you get to where you are today with everything that you're doing? So you're pretty full-time as a flight attendant.
Right, yeah.
Ish.
I don't know. I think I'm full-time with all 3 of my careers, but...
Okay. But then you're using that travel to be able to do some other really cool things in the industry. So my background is actually in nursing. So I've been a nurse for well over 15 years. And I do cardiac care, so cardiac ICU, the boring stuff. Yeah. And so, I was doing cardiac nursing, but then I started kind of realizing healthcare has definitely changed, not in a good direction. And we're not really doing a lot with health anymore. It has to do more with sick care and, that whole world. And so I kind of saw behind the curtains of healthcare and where it's heading, what's going on with it, and started looking more into preventative care, more prevention, more taking care of health, more exercise, diet, nutrition, that whole thing. So I actually went to go work at Google headquarters in Mountain View,
was their RN health coach for a while and was helping all the engineers and Googlers, what they call themselves.
Is that their term?
Their term. Googlers,
nice.
yeah.
Nice.
I had to really learn a lot of tech terms. They had to learn medical terms. I had to learn tech terms, you know. So we found a common ground with the whole garbage in, garbage out process or whatever. And so I was teaching them health and wellness. Well, then when I left Google, like everyone else who leaves Google, to do a startup, I did my own startup and started my own business as a health and wellness person. And so I did that, moved down to San Diego, love living in San Diego, and met a lot of cool practitioners, doctors. And then I expanded where I started putting more health and wellness and prevention and stuff into private practices. So that was really fun. So then I became more of the consultant role. And so that was able to make it more of an expansion project. And so did that. And then ended up meeting up with a doctor who she is now super involved with Border Patrol down in San Diego. So we've done several health events with them, which is really awesome. I love working with those guys. Like they got their work cut out for them right now. So
they do right now.
They have got a lot on their plate. People don't realize some of the stuff that happens down there. And it's just wild. They're really doing their best to protect and do the right thing. And so we're down there helping them with health events to help keep their health and wellness intact because they got a lot of stress on their plate. So
and the toll that job in general, I'm sure, takes on your body and your mental health and all of that stuff has to be a lot. But then especially right now, they're busier now than they've ever been. Like, what are some of the things that you're seeing down there at the border in terms of how it's putting stressors on them in that profession? And then where do you come in to help bridge that gap?
Well, one of the things I know that they're heavily dealing with is it seems like every week there's another something they're not allowed to use. There's another weapon being taken away. There's another tactic they're not allowed to use anymore. And they're saying, well, that's cool, but people coming towards us are not being told the same thing. So it's making it harder on them to protect the country. And, you know, sex trafficking is a huge thing now.
Yeah.
They're seeing a lot of that still. They're seeing a lot of the illegal drugs and different things happening. So there's a lot of evil and bad that's trying to come our way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some of it is ordered from our side. So that's why it is coming across the border. So whether that's people, drugs, or whatever, you know, so they're dealing with that. But at the same time, they feel like their hands are tied because they're getting told one thing from the one side and they're trying to do their best to do their job with limitations.
Yeah. So cool that you get to go out and do that and like serve those people and uplift them and make them better. So talk a little bit about when you go down there.
Right.
You know, where do you start with them?
Well, so we've over the last 2 years, we've designed a really cool program for them between her and I. Her specialty is more like in movement. She's got her chiropractic, but she focuses a lot on functional medicine and integrative care. And so she does a lot with the movement portion. And so even just simple things like how they wear their belts and their vest and what that does to their back and to like a lot of them have a lot of lower back pain because of this. And so she teaches them better ways or stretches and like movement stuff or how to stand in posture to like improve upon that kind of stuff. And then because I come from a world of stress, I mean, cardiac ICU, it's not unstressful. I mean, it has the word intensity in the title. So I talk to them a lot about stress management. And, you know, our program is not like your grandma's program. Like we're dealing with these tough guys and women. And so like we lay it out for them pretty clear, but we don't do the whole, let's all sit in a circle, sing Kumbaya and be less stressed. Okay. Like, so I do a little like reality talk with them. Like, hey guys, I get it. I'm coming from a stressful environment too. You guys is different than mine, but I understand that kind of stuff doesn't work for you. Like saying go to therapy and deal with your stuff is not exactly, you know, your wheelhouse. So we have like real talk conversations. And so we do a lot with stress management. We do a lot with sleep. A lot of them have trouble with sleeping, especially if they're doing the different shifts, the night shift and stuff. Yeah. Their diets, a lot of it's grab and go, you know, just whatever, you get something in just to say you have something in, which I'm also guilty of. So I'm like, hey guys, I'm not coming to you as like, I'm pro at this. I'm coming like, I know where you're coming from. I do the same thing. So especially on the airplane, we just eat whatever in the galleys, you know?
Well, as you're listing all of these things, right, is I'm thinking that's the life of an entrepreneur,
right?
Too, right? Like a lot of the stress and sleepless nights. So what are some practical tips and things that you show them? So like, hey, not grandma's program,
right?
Like therapy's great, but we're not going to talk about this now. Like here's an action step of, you know, like what's one of the things that you would share with somebody that's having issues with sleep, right? Whether it's getting enough of it, waking up. with those stresses? Like, what are some of the things that you get to teach?
Well, a lot of it has to do with like, what are you doing like the hour before bed? So it's like, okay, what happens the hour before bed? Are you watching TV? Are you on your phone? Are you scrolling? We're all so guilty of that one for sure. Mm-hmm. And you're constantly getting images and flashes of just like up and down emotions when you scroll through the internet. Mm-hmm. Same thing with depending on what you're watching on TV, but not on top of that, but you have the light that's coming from it. That's not normal for us for nighttime sleep.
And I've heard, what is the light? There's a blue light versus a gray light?
Right, blue light, and then like the lower lights, like, so they have those blue light blocking sunglasses and different things like that. Yeah. But even simply the lights in your room, like if you have the bright lights on in your room before bed, or even if you only have that screen, you're just getting that focus, which is making your melatonin not want to come out. And so it's a whole process. And if you add stress to it, now your cortisol's here. So it's like a whole internal like hormonal shift that needs to happen for bedtime.
So you've got cortisol, that's the stress hormone.
Right.
So that's high.
Right.
And then you're getting these dopamine hits on the phone. Right. You're scrolling through the reels, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So you want to eliminate that.
Yeah.
And then just your light plays a big.
Right. Light plays a huge thing. So you can get like these like infrared lighting and stuff to like have in your room to be like that dim light. So your eyes start getting used to, okay, it's dimming. Even just being outside at sunset kind of lets your eyes and your body know like it's getting time for bedtime. And then obviously like what you're eating and doing before bed as well. Like obviously don't jack yourself up on coffee and sugar and all those things, cheers.
Yeah. We're like noon right now. It's 12:30, so we're good.
Right before bed, because you just got to think about like what's the purpose of the body. The body needs to go to bed. So I don't need a huge giant meal. I don't need all the sugary beverages. I'm not trying to have energy right now.
Yeah.
And that's what the food is supposed to be for, is your energy source. So don't load up before it's bedtime.
Yeah. What's been the response? So you come, I'm just curious, like, is the group that you work with, so are they a little reluctant at first?
Yes.
They're a little standoffish, and how do you break that barrier? Because I want to talk about the results that they get, some of the feedback that you get from this, and then even how you would do this in business environments. But what's that pushback? Is it just they're in a tough job, they're tough people, so they're just going to be tough and put up the wall.
They're trained that way. Like, suck it up, buttercup.
Coming in here telling me what to do. Right?
Yeah, you've got these two girls coming in telling them how to be healthier, and I think they're used to a lot of the programs that they usually get to, where it's the usual typical thing: eat better, exercise, sleep. That doesn't tell anybody how to, or any tricks of the trade. And so we come in with those little tricks of the trade. And then we present it in a fun way, and we're joking around, and we might drop a F-bomb or something and just let them know. Like, one of the exercises I do with them for stress is we talk about chucking in the fuck it bucket. And so we have a fun exercise we do with that.
I didn't think you were going to drop an F-bomb. We were talking about this before. Joey's over here. Right, you got a friend over here.
Well, I tell people I curse like a nurse. It's a little different than a sailor, but Okay.
What is curse like a nurse? Is you just when it matters. You
just don't know it's coming, I guess, because you didn't know that was coming.
I did not know. That was perfect timing. Chuck it in the fuck it bucket.
Yes.
Okay, so break that down.
So we do this little exercise where I kind of have them write down everything that's stressing them out. I'm like, anything you think of. The Karen that you saw in the grocery store to, like, literally I arrested somebody yesterday, like, whatever is stressing you out, whether it's your wife, your kids. I was like, don't worry, nobody's going to see this paper. I was like, I wanted to burn them, but they wouldn't let me set anything on fire. So we don't do that part of it, but I have them like just write it all out. I'm like, get it out of your brain. Anything. It could be anything. It could be us. Like, you could say, I don't like this program that you guys are bringing me. Write our names down. I don't care. So I have them all get it out of their head, put it on the paper. And then I literally bring out a bucket, and we call it our fuck it bucket. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, anything on that list that you can do something about, that you can change, that you can improve, I want you to circle it. And I have them circle those things, because I was like, those are the things you can focus on to change them and make a difference.
Yes.
If you don't like it, you can't just complain about it. You got to do something about it.
A big shout out and thank you to one of our sponsors, M&D Painting and Roofing. M&D was actually founded by my wife, Emily, and I back in 2005. And for the last 2 decades, we've been here in northern Colorado, of one of the leaders in residential and commercial repainting, as well as most recently installing residential roofs. So if you need to paint, re-roof, you got hit by a hailstorm, we can take care of whatever your home needs from top to bottom. You can find us on the web at mandepainting.com. Hey, just want to give a big shout out to one of our sponsors, Imprint Digital. If you're a small business owner, one of the things that you need to navigate to be successful is all things online and digital in terms of marketing and your messaging. Imprint Digital, they're the real deal. They are the professionals, and they know this world inside and out. Make sure to visit their website at imprint-digital.com.
And so they'll circle those things. And I said, and as for everything else on that list, if you can't change it, improve upon it, do anything about it, you just need to chuck it in the fuck it bucket.
Okay.
You need to let go of it. So it's kind of a fun exercise, and they love it because they get to curse, they get to throw it. Like I literally have them ball it up and they throw it at me, so it's great fun for them.
I love that. Do you carry a physical bucket with you?
Yeah, we have a bucket.
The F it bucket?
Well,
Fuck it bucket?
We weren't sure if we were allowed to, and I was like, I'm going to say the F-bomb in the class, but I'm not going to walk in the room with a big bucket that says fuck it on it. So
Joey, we are now explicit on this podcast.
I approve.
I love it. And then so as they're throwing all these things out, what percentage of things do you see end up in that bucket that there's no control over?
Well,
right? Versus the things that can be controlled.
Well, and it's fascinating.
What do they worry about more?
It's fascinating because it's a lot of home stuff, actually. Like, I think when they go to their job, they're like, this is my job. I'm trained for this. This is what I do. I'm respected here. I know what's happening. But at home and like in the rest of the world, I think is where the big challenges come from. The bills, the houses they can't afford, trying to put food on the table, and even just the way that they're perceived in society. Because, society doesn't tell the full story of what's happening down there.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of that stuff happening that seems more stressful to them. And I think it's the same way for me in the ICU. Like the ICU, I'm literally doing chest compressions on people, or people are dying in front of my face and we try to revive them and stuff. Sometimes that's less stressful than the airplanes when Karen won't sit down and you're like, Karen, please sit down. We want to make this plane go. Like just sometimes it's the more simple things in life that can be more stressful. And I think it's that way for them too.
There's so many places I want to go, and this is not to get political by any means. What are some of the things that you're hearing from Border Patrol that's going on down at the border that stresses them out, that you want people to know, or maybe that's not getting passed along?
Well, I don't know how much I'm supposed to say and whatnot, but
gotcha.
But it's definitely, there's like we talked about earlier with the sex trafficking and the drugs and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that being short-staffed, not having the staff that they need, not having the resources and the finances, which we all know how our government goes with that. So,
so they're overworked, underpaid, and everything they're seeing there is not. It's the ugly. It's the ugly side of humanity, evil parts of life.
And I know it's portrayed sometimes in the news like, oh, they're ripping families apart, and it's not about that. For the most part, they're seeing things it doesn't belong. And the interesting part is a lot of the Border Patrol people, they're from Mexico and they're from other places, but they came over and they had to do the hard work and they had to make things happen. And so they kind of a little bit are like, okay, I had to do it. You can do it the correct way too. And so, yeah, it's fascinating down there. They work hard and they see so much stuff. I mean, on the hilarious side of things, they have some crazy stuff and stories from how people have tried to come over to here. And so people will find creative ways to insert themselves into vehicles and different things that we've seen.
There's a lot of creativity there.
There's a lot of creativity.
Whatever you're trying to get over.
Yeah, like they've had people like roll themselves up into tires, and like they've had people build themselves into the seats. Like they'll find creative ways to try and do what they're doing. It's like if you could use that creativity for good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hard job they have.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I love working with them. I love helping them. It's definitely a different mindset from when I worked with the engineers at Google. In a way, for me, it's almost easier. I can relate to them a little bit better.
And what's your background growing up? Like, do you have a passion for law enforcement? Did you just find your way to Border Patrol? I mean, how did that all come together? Because I know you're super excited about, like I see your posts and you're on social a lot, right? And I see all of that, and you're just super passionate about everybody, but that group, it seems in particular.
I think so. Like my grandparents were in the military and stuff. And so like we always had like that. And then growing up, we grew up in a Christian home, and we just grew up, taking care of community and taking care of each other. And that was like the way it was. And I think there's a higher respect for nurses, police, firemen, EMTs, like that whole, like kind of what runs a city. You know, when we need help, these are the people we call for. And of course, none of them, like nurses or, doctors or anybody, nobody's going to say they're heroes. People try to put those label on us, and like, we're like, no, we're just doing our job. And then I think they're the same way. Like they just, this is what you do. This is what you do when you're in society. This is what you do as you're in a community. You help your family, you help your neighbors. And so, I definitely have that. And then like being in the nursing field, I mean, a lot of nurses end up with firefighters and police and stuff. So a lot of my friends have police officer husbands. So they're in the relationships, a lot of first responders coming together. And a lot of them used to be military and whatnot. So I've just kind of always been around all of the above. And so it's pretty fascinating. And I grew up in a home that we have guns in our home. So it's really cool.
So you mentioned, and we kind of got away from it. We squirreled away a little bit. Is the Karen on the airplane, right? Yeah. So there's got to be crazy border stories.
Yeah.
Right. But like, what's been some of the most interesting, funny, crazy, wild experiences you've had on the airplane?
On the airplane. Yeah. Oh man. You know, I don't understand behavior outside the hospital as much because this is a new thing for me. Like I got into flight attendant because I love traveling and I was like, why not get paid for doing something I'm already doing anyway? And so, you know, when I get on the airplane, it's a different mindset. Like I can't turn off my nursing brain because it's just, I can't. Like I like to be in the front flight attendant because I like to see who's getting on and off the plane. I want to see if they look like they're going to have a medical condition or if they're going to cause drama.
Yes.
So I like to assess people as they're coming on. I'm like checking them out.
So you scan everybody, right?
I do, yeah.
And you told me, you looked at me and said I was at AB.
A willing, able body, yeah.
Yeah, you gave me like an acronym. So you're looking for who can help.
Yeah.
Who's going to be a problem.
Right.
Who might die.
Yeah, exactly. And I like to know these things.
And who's just going to be a pain in the
Exactly.
In the ass. Okay.
And then do I need to take them off my plane or not? And so I can't turn off that part of the nursing part. But then there's the other part where I'm like, no, in this role, I'm a flight attendant. And like, this is about having fun and we're traveling and we're having a good time. And so this is why I picked Southwest. I love the airline because we're allowed to do that. We're allowed to have fun. I'm like, I tell people all the time, like, this is my fun job. So there's not going to be any drama on this flight because I got that at my other job. So I don't need any more. This is where we're going to have fun. Nobody agrees with that, then you get off the airplane. You and your attitude got to stay on the jet bridge. We're all going to go on to our next destination, you know?
And you've got to be pretty out of hand to get kicked off of a Southwest airline, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty tolerant. Like, if you're fun and drunk, fine, stay and have fun. But if you're going to be belligerent and act a fool, that's a different story. So, yeah, it's different because I like to kind of just, as a nurse, I like to see things, prevented things that's going to happen later on. Like, we're so trained in the ICU to walk into a room, what's the problem in the room and fix it. And let's prevent anything that could go worse. And so that's kind of how I can't turn that part of my brain off on the airplane. So that, and then my personality, not as a nurse, is more just get along with everybody, crack up, have fun. You guys, we're here to have fun. We're flying. Like, I love travel. You love travel. Let's go. Yeah. But yes, there are the characters that get on sometimes that you're like, what happened today? And I think I'm a little bit less tolerant of it because in the hospital, I can make excuses like, you're sick. That's why you're acting a fool. On the airplane, I'm like, you're in public. Act like you're in public. Like,
there's no reason at like 10 a.m. I just got you some pretzels and a drink and you're being...
It's not that hard. Sit down, enjoy the flight, let's go. And so, yeah, every once in a while, like we get people, and you know what? It tends to be drug or alcohol related.
Okay.
Most people are pretty decent in public. Certain cities, certain towns you go into, we know the personality of the characters coming out of there, so you kind of know what you're going to get. But most of the time, it's drug or alcohol related.
Okay. Did you catch? This just makes me think the gal that was on the plane. She ended up becoming a meme.
Oh yeah.
She turned around and saw something. Did you ever catch what happened on that?
He's not real. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know anything more about that than?
No. I think it ended up being that she was on something. I don't know. I kind of was just like, oh geez, here we go again. And then it was everybody saying, oh, she was hot though, and this and that. Like, it just became a whole internet thing.
She became famous. I don't know that I'd want to become famous like that way. That's the 15.
I think that's the way of the world. Like, look at how all the accounts that are famous. Like, what are they actually doing?
Yep. It is. What I thought was interesting is I was listening to a podcast that you were on, and you had talked about your desire to get into the coaching that you're doing stemmed from maybe some burnout or you hitting the wall in that profession of being a nurse and really how that affected you. So I'd love to hear more about that, just the deeper, passion and purpose and how you transitioned into that because, you hit a wall.
And you know what? This was way before the COVID days. I know everybody says nurses are so burnt out from COVID, but it was a long thing coming. COVID did not set off the burnout in nurses. Like, this is a long-standing problem of being short-staffed, of not having the resources, not getting the appreciation, and the things we see and deal with society. And as society's going more and more downhill as far as there being more drug problems and there being more overdoses and people just acting belligerent and crazy in the hospitals. And so it was a long-standing thing. But for me, it was just... I think it was a combination of working those long hours and like you have the heart and the mindset when you go into this kind of field to take care of others first. Yeah. And then you don't take care of yourself because you're too busy taking care of everybody else. And I think that's very common in the nursing field. A lot of empathy to even be a nurse. And so then you keep giving and giving and giving to everybody else. And then you turn around and realize, oh my gosh, I'm falling apart in the meantime. And I kind of felt hypocritical because I was like, well, I'm trying to help everybody with their health and my health is falling apart.
Yeah.
I actually became a cardiac patient, which is like the last thing you want to do if you're a nurse. Like, oh, no.
Because you just know, everything
you know
that's
too
happening,
much, and you're
right?
like, oh geez, I don't want to end up in the ICU. So like I started having arrhythmia problems, and so I started feeling like palpitations in my chest and having fast heart rate. And at the time I was like, well, I still kind of am, but at the time I was definitely an adrenaline junkie. And I was like working out with a marine trainer, and I was jumping out of airplanes, and I was free diving in the ocean and spear fishing and just doing all this crazy fun stuff. To me, I thought it was like great. But my body was like, you need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
You're all adrenaline. That's all you are. You live off of cortisol.
It's all adrenaline.
I don't even need coffee. I just live off of cortisol and adrenaline. And so, yeah, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I feel like I'm healthy. I'm doing all these things that I love doing. But my body was like, yeah, you don't do anything calm. You're not grounded. So now I fly in planes and I'm never grounded. But yeah, it was fascinating. So I started having cardiac stuff, but it was interesting when I was in the medical field. I work with all cardiologists, cardiac surgeons. Like I have a team. I'm like, okay, well, I got heart problems. Let me go to my team. The problem in mainstream medicine is everything is reactive, and it's very much like, okay, well, you're having this issue. Here's the pill we prescribe for that.
Yeah.
Or here's the procedure that you need. And I'm like, no, but what's causing it? Why am I having these arrhythmias?
If your life or business are cluttered up with junk right now, then you've got to reach out to one of our sponsors, Hulk Addicts Hauling. Hulk Addicts can come out to your home or business to do anything from removing junk to appliances. Maybe you're demoing or doing construction on a property and you need it cleared out. Maybe you need a big dumpster dropped off that they can roll off later. Make sure to check them out at hulkaddictsjunk.com. They are serving all of northern Colorado as well as up and down the Front Range. Hey, if you're a Christian business owner, you have to check out one of our sponsors, the Foundry Advisory. The Foundry is a Christian peer advisory group where we get together on a monthly basis to discuss everything that's important in our life, our business, our families, and our faith. I'm a member and I love being a part of this group. You've got to check them out at thefoundryadvisory.com. When you go to their website, make sure you check out their Refresh event, which is happening January 11th through the 13th, 2024, up in Estes Park. That can be found at thefoundryadvisory.com/refresh. Hey, if you're a business owner and you need to do some renovation in your space or possibly build a building from the ground up, you have to connect with one of our sponsors, Mendel Construction. Mendel Construction is a commercial construction company that's been around since 1997, serving all of Colorado. They can do a small tenant finish all the way up to ground-up construction of a new building for your business. Check them out at mendelandcompany.com. That's MENDEL and company.com.
That's what I want to know. That's what I want to find out.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you're just, problem's already here.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. Nobody
Right.
looked at preventative. They're just
Yeah.
like, take this drug, this pill.
Right.
Here's the fix now.
And so it took me like a whole year to figure out what was going on. And it was like, I got sent to the cardiologist. I got sent to the OBGYN. Like maybe it's a hormonal issue. I got sent to everywhere. And over a year, I even had the whole like Gatorade commercial look, where they hook you up to all the machines and you're riding on a bicycle
running on the treadmill with all the...
and they're drawing blood out of you at the same time. And you're blowing in this thing. It was super cool. But everything came back like just a little bit off and nobody could really figure out what was going on. And you're like, well, normal circumstances, this is not concerning, or we would be concerned if you were older. And so that was just kind of here we can't quite figure it out, but it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. Here's the antiarrhythmic we want you to take, or here's the beta blocker. And I was like, I don't want to just be on drugs. Like, why am I having these issues?
Yeah.
So then I started talking with a functional medicine doctor. And then in like 10 minutes, she's like, girl, here's what's going on. She's like, your cortisol levels are through the roof. And then when your body cannot keep up with the demand, then they're down in the dump. And so you're going through these two extremes. That doesn't make your heart very happy.
True.
And I was like, okay, so I need to chill out. And she's like, yeah, you need to put yoga, you need to meditate, you need to like try like some, adaptogens and herbs and different things. And so I was like, so I basically need a lifestyle overhaul a little bit. I was like, well, I'm not quitting my job, but maybe I can kind of back it down a little bit on some of the other stuff. And within like 6 months, I didn't need any antiarrhythmic medicine. I didn't need any other medications. Everything kind of balanced itself out. And it was just fascinating because in functional medicine and integrative care, for people who aren't familiar with those terms, it's basically going back to the basics of human anatomy and physiology. How does the body work? And then how does the body work with nature? Because that's how it's designed.
Yeah.
So where is things off balance is let's focus on that, because one system affects the other, affects the other, affects the other, affects the other. And like, I think in mainstream, we kind of like everybody specializes and goes in these different directions. And then the heart people don't say, oh, maybe it's your hormones. And then the OBGYN doesn't say, oh, maybe it's your stomach. Like no one's putting the full picture together, which is fascinating because that's how we were all trained. We all started out in anatomy and physiology, but it's kind of like,
Then kind of found getting away from that.
Yeah.
So then how long did it take you to get things back?
It was probably like a year. Okay. And if I'm being completely honest, I still run that adrenaline life. Like, I don't know if I can help myself, but I've definitely know when I get into phases where I'm back into the adrenaline junkie lifestyle, I know what to do to go backwards again.
Okay.
Or forward or balance or whatever. I know how to get back to that place of where the body's in homeostasis, for a medical term.
What are some of those things? Because like a lot of the listeners here, just again, as you're speaking, like in a different world, but a lot of the same things. Like entrepreneurs, they thrive on like the chase of the business and the excitement. And then there's this high. I just did a speaking engagement. You get off the stage, it's like you're on top of the world, and they're like, "Dang, that was a lot of work." And now I'm crashing. Like I go through that. Yeah. A lot of people here watching this, listening to this do. So like, what are those things?
Well, I know
you can do. So like we talked about phone at night.
Right.
Like don't look at the phone.
Yeah. Which
change the light.
For the entrepreneur lifestyle, which I learned the hard way too, is it's a 24/7 gig.
Yeah.
You're constantly sending emails, you're constantly responding to clients, you're constantly trying to get new clients, you're trying to do your marketing, you're trying to, put your name out there and respond to negative posts, respond to positive posts. Like, it's a 24/7 operation. And so, shutting it down and like almost giving yourself actual business hours. It doesn't have to be the 9 to 5 because that's what we all wanted to get away from, but having actual business hours where this is where I deal with others, this is where I deal with the rest of the world, and this is my me time. And so for a lot of people, they have to do it at the beginning of the day or it doesn't get done. So like when they wake up, don't jump onto your phone because the world's coming. I tell people all the time, I'm like, don't bring the world into bed with you. Like, be selective with who comes to bed with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like don't bring it to bed.
Yeah.
And then what's your thought about, first thing in the morning? Like I'm not a huge proponent of, because whenever I do, the phone comes on.
Right.
Like, I want to listen to an Audible, have some quiet time, go work out. But then, the email's right there. And then you're in the email, you're on the social.
Yeah. And I'm very guilty of that because I go on my phone to do, like you said, where I want to listen to my peaceful morning podcast and I want to go to the gym and listen to my music. And like you said, you'll see as I'm going to look for my music, oh, wait, but let me just respond to this text and this email. So I've turned a lot of my notifications off just so that I don't see them as much. And then I'm like, okay, I don't need to get to that yet. And then I have to it's like a conscious decision all the time to say, this is not business hours. This is me time. This is not business hours. This is me time. And it doesn't always work. Like it's a still work in progress.
Totally.
But, you try to do those things, but definitely making sure that at some point in your day, the things we know we need to do needs to happen. Like we know we need to move our bodies. So whether you're a morning workout person, afternoon, evening, don't go to bed until it's done. And we all know we need downtime. So you have to schedule it in. It's kind of like you have to be the VIP of your calendar. And so if the VIP of a company or the CEO asked you to schedule their stuff for them, every single thing they wanted would be on that calendar. But we don't do that for our own selves. We don't do that for our own lives. And so we need to become the VIP and the CEO of our calendar. And like we go on there first, then the family, then the kids, then the business. And, whatever the priority order is, but you have to be the priority of it. You have to be the CEO. And so I think that's a hard thing for people to do because usually it's the opposite.
Yeah, it's always easier to do that for somebody else, right? Than for ourselves.
Yeah. So if we had an assistant and they filled us in and said, okay, this is your hour for working out, maybe that would work out better. I don't know. Maybe we all need like personal life assistants or something.
Hey,
I would love one.
Tie that in. Yeah.
But if we don't have that, we obviously have to do it for ourselves. And like, it's kind of crazy because we're starting to see younger and younger people in the ICU. And, whatever reason that is, whether it's the last couple of years or prior to that, even seeing this stuff prior to that is people are just getting burnt out because they're just 24/7 go, go, go. Yeah. Whether they're still 9 to 5 workers, whether they're entrepreneurs, whether they're at the border, whether they're flying in airplanes, like whatever people are doing in life, like we have created this modern world of constant.
And I was just going to ask you too, because it's not always just a business thing. Business is hard. It's hard to turn off. It's your baby. You created it. There's always something that can occupy that space. But then I, as an entrepreneur, think, business, an employee, it's working a 9 to 5. Yep, you can turn it off at 5:02. It's done. What's the common theme you're seeing? Do you think it's just the modernness of the world and the accessibility to being connected?
Right.
And information?
I think we have an information overload. I don't think any other time in history have we been exposed to everyone's problems in the world at the rate that we're doing.
Yeah.
I think I saw an article the other day that said something about the amount of information we get in like 10 minutes would be reading like the same amount of like 300 newspapers or something like that. It's just a ton of information thrown at our brains that our brains are like, okay, I got to sift through what's important, what's not important. What do I need to focus on? But we're doing this as we're driving and we're doing this as we're watching TV. Like some people have their phone and the TV on and a radio on, and I don't know how they do it, but like people do that. Like we don't know how to sit with ourselves anymore.
Yeah.
We don't know how to be silent. And that is a lot of times where you get some of your greatest ideas or where you get the downloads from like, whatever people's beliefs are, whether it's God or the universe or whatever. But that's when you get those downloads or those moments and that helps you with your job or helps you with your family. But we don't get them anymore because we don't sit with ourselves.
Yeah.
And we don't have real connections with community around us. We're too busy trying to connect on the internet. Yeah. And so it's kind of it's the modern world is not helping us.
It's not the world we're in. Health.
Right.
Yeah. So what are some other tips? So you've given so much great context, right, about like the sleep and the stress and the scheduling and being your own VIP.
Right.
What's been some of the big things that you've seen that have really helped drive everybody forward that you're coaching, that you're teaching?
I think it's kind of just that awareness of people realizing like a lot of people think they're healthy. They're like, I go to the labs and they're fine. And I go to the doctor and he says, you look great. And then you look at them and you're like, clearly you're not great. Like, you got a lot of extra tummy going on there, hun. Like you're a man, but you look pregnant. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like you look 10 years older than your actual age. So I love that the labs that we do in the medical field are kind of more directed towards, well, you're not diseased and you're not dying, but they're not optimal. Yeah. And so even simple thing like getting your vitamin D test checked. Most of us are vitamin D deficient and people don't realize that that's a hormone. So it affects all the other hormones and it affects a lot of the systems in our body. It affects our immune system. And you go to mainstream medicine and they'll say, oh, if you're 35 to 45, you're fine. Most of us are like 30s and 20s, but they'll say you're fine. Just, go outside in the sun. And optimally in functional medicine world, we say, no, you need to be more like vitamin D level of 60. And so it's fascinating when people go and get their base labs. The base labs are basically saying you're not dying, you don't have a disease right now.
Yeah.
But you're not healthy.
It's not a high bar.
Right. Yeah. It's not a very high bar. It's like you're not dead. So functional medicine optimal is more kind of what we go for. And then people realize how much different they feel just from simple thing like, okay, my vitamin D level is low. Let me bring this up to optimal. Wow, look at all the systems that has improved just from like getting that back in check. And okay, I'm stressed all the time, so my cortisol level's through the roof. Let me lower that cortisol level. Wow, look at how I sleep better. Look at how I like function better, just getting my cortisol level back in check. So it's kind of crazy, like the way we do medicine in this world currently, like I said, the modern world is so far away from how we're designed as a human being to function. And people have no idea how good they're designed to feel until they feel that way. And then they're like, wow, I didn't know I could feel like this. And that usually helps motivate people. But to get them from point A to point B is a lot of times you have to have that wake-up call of you're not exactly as healthy as you think you are. And then having them realize and get some different things checked out and kind of get some different things back in balance. Like so many men today walk around with low testosterone.
Yes.
And it's crazy because they go to their doctor and their doctor, again, is like, you're on the low side of normal.
But that's a wide range.
But it's a wide range.
So I openly share this, and I didn't a decade ago. So it's kind of a new thing, but I'm 42 now.
Right.
And I'm 30 years old. I remember like my 30th birthday, Emily throws me a surprise party, which is a whole nother thing. And I'm just coming home wiped. And we had thyroid issues in my family. So I'm like, it's probably a thyroid thing. I've got young kids. I'm really busy with the business. Yeah. And then a low T commercial comes on, right? And I'm sitting there with Emily and we're just like laughing at it's like a 50, 60-year-old dude, gray hair. I'm like, that's not me. And somebody's like, go get it checked out. That's a thing. So yeah, went and checked that. And I think my levels were 130.
Wow, that's low.
And the range is 240 to 700. I'm like, that's a big range anyway.
Right.
But yeah, it was 130. The doc's like, yeah, that's like an 80-year-old, almost dead guy. And I go, well, why? They don't know. They're just like, take a shot. So I mean, even the solution to that is interesting.
Right.
Feel a lot better. But like, I can't ever get off of taking that right now. So it's like, that's a medication I'm on for the rest of my life. But like, why is that? I had my pituitary scanned. The only thing we could bring it down to is it's probably stress, and then just the diet.
Right.
All of the hormones and things that are in the food.
Yeah.
But yeah, I highly recommend that to men to go get it checked.
Absolutely. And even I said, we have a higher bar in functional medicine, and so ours is more like you should be optimally around 900 for men. And so
I feel pretty good at 900.
Yeah.
And I've experimented
and that's
all the
where
way
you're
up to
supposed to
2,000
live.
was too high.
Yeah.
Like
but,
you're too high.
Yeah. You're like, okay, now you're on the other side of crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep,
But
totally.
it's amazing just even simplest thing like fixing something like that men don't realize like, oh, I should actually be feeling like this.
Yeah.
And I'm not because medicine says I'm okay. So yeah, it's pretty interesting how we're doing things. But it's fascinating to watch people come to that aha moment of, I have to take health into my own hands. I can't blame the doctor all the time. Even if medicine's doing it wrong, I still know I'm supposed to be eating a certain way and exercising and I need sleep and, all the things we know we're supposed to do.
So with all of the different like web of, you got cortisol, and stress and the hormones and the lifestyle and everything, what would be 3 to 5 things that you would recommend just across the board for anybody to do to put in check? Like you said, vitamin D is a huge thing.
Right.
Unplugging from the phone, from the light. But what are some other big ones that you see that really help people right across the board? Like they can start doing this today, and within a couple of days, couple of weeks, they're going to see a huge shift in their just how they're feeling.
I would definitely say that you have to put movement in there. And I know when people hear the exercise word, they're like, I hate exercising. And well, I'm sorry, but our bodies are designed to move. Yeah. They function better with movement. So whether that's even just starting with a walk a day, get that going. I mean, strength training is a major part of keeping our bodies healthy, even as we age, because we need to protect our muscles. Like we start losing muscles. Yeah. So the only way to do that is we got to protect them. And then our bone strength happens from movement and it happens from strength training. And so I know for a long time it was cardio, everything's cardio. People hate cardio, so then they just didn't exercise at all. And it's like, I don't really care how you move, whether you're dancing, whether you're playing a sport, whether just somehow get movement into your life. We were not designed to sit in a desk and sit in front of a computer all day long. Like that's not what our bodies want to do. They want to move. So you start moving, the blood flow starts flowing better. All your systems start running better. You clear out your lymph nodes. Like your muscles are happy. Your everything is just happier with movement. And so for some people that might be just simply going for walks because that's where they're at. They're a couch potato and they need to just move their body. And then you go forward from there and whatever it is after walking, whether you join a fitness class or whether you join a sports team or you find some other like hobby that you can come into, somehow move your body every single day more than the sitting at the desk and going to your bed and then back to the desk, Yeah. So that would definitely be one of the things I would highly recommend is just movement, stretching, moving, anything you can do to move your body. It prefers that. Yeah. And then, of course, everybody's like, well, what about all these new fad diets and different things? I'm like, there will be a new diet every year. That's just the way it is. I was like, but the basic things your body needs is going to always be the basic things it needs. It will always need protein. It'll always need a carb source. It'll always need some kind of fats. Yep. And so in the 90s and stuff, we took all the fat out of everything. Mm-hmm. And heart disease went through the roof and diabetes went through the roof. Yep. And we put sugar in everything. And so now sugar's the new enemy. But I'm like, it's not even an enemy. We still need sugar. It's still an energy source. It still breaks down into glucose and goes to energy for us. But like we do it to the extreme because that's what we do here. We do everything to the extreme. So it's just kind of learning that none of these things are actually the enemy. You just have to do them in the right time, the right proportions, the right amounts, and your body will function. Like go back to what your body likes. Yeah. And for some people, that's like detoxing down off of some of this junk food. And so that could be really hard if they're used to having this high level of sugar in their life and to come down from it. It's almost like coming off of a drug. Like there's gonna be a detox phase where you're not feeling so good. Yeah.
Have you ever tried? I've tried that whole no sugar at all. Yeah, you eat some fruit, but like no sugar in the coffee, no anything, and that was pretty brutal.
Yeah, if you actually do a detox or an elimination diet, like you're taking all the fun away. No alcohol, no sugar, no coffee. It's very challenging. It's not for the weak of heart, but it's definitely a good thing to do because if you take those things out, and then when you go back to them, you don't have the same relationship anymore. Mm-hmm. You go back to a sugar that you used to have, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, that's really sweet. How did I ever do this? So you can actually untrain your body for these things that we do all the time. People who come off of coffee and then they go back to it, they're like, oh my gosh, I am jacked off of just 3 sips of coffee because they haven't had it in a month. And so it's like, if you could just get through that phase and know like I'm doing good for my body and I'm learning about my body and I'm kind of using it as a science project. Yeah. When I start reintroducing things, I'm going to find out whether my body likes it or not. Like if you've always had milk and dairy your whole life and you didn't think anything of it, try taking it out for a month and then go back to it. You're going to have some kind of response. Your body's going to tell you something. Yeah. Whether it's a mild thing like, oh, I just get a little bloated tummy, or you're in the bathroom for 2 hours. Like your body's going to let you know. And then now going forward, my body doesn't quite like this, so I need to minimize having it in my life.
And you would just promote just a guess and check.
Yeah.
It's kind of an eliminate check. See how you're feeling.
You have to eliminate it for a certain amount of time, at least 3 weeks, just to get a full picture of it's out of my system. I've gone through the withdrawal phase of it. And now let me try putting it back and see what happens.
And coffee too. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I drink way too much coffee.
Well, and it's amazing because when you start talking to people about their relationship to coffee, you're like, is it a habit? Is it the smell? Is it the taste? Or is it because I love what it does to me, gets me all jacked up?
Yeah.
And people have different reasons for it. Some people are like, it's just the morning routine. I love holding a warm cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. And some people, it's like, no, I need it to jack me up. I'm like, well, okay, our bodies are not coffee deprived. That's not like a nutrient deficiency, coffee. So what if we could start finding other ways to bring you energy? Then would you need 10 cups of coffee? Or could be okay with one?
Yeah.
So it's just finding the whys behind things sometimes.
Interesting. I love all that. What else would be like one more tip you would share? And then I want to transition and ask you something about your business and where that's going.
I would say also another thing, we've talked about movement. We've talked about, some of the nutrition changes. Mm-hmm. We've talked about getting your labs checked, but then getting them checked to optimal levels. Even getting a functional medicine doctor involved. There's actually a website called ifm.org, mm-hmm. and it's the Institute of Functional Medicine. And they have practitioners that are certified by them in your location. You just can put in your zip code. And you can find someone who's actually wants to look more into what's the underlying cause of what's going on with you. So I would always suggest that would be a good place to start. And then anything you need to have to fill in the spaces that are missing in your life, that should be a focus. Whether it's connection to human beings, get off the internet, get off the dating sites, like go be out in like society. Go hang out with your friends. Go hang out with your loved ones. Like get the real life connections back.
Without a phone. Without everybody sitting there being on the phone.
Don't go to dinner and everybody be on their phone. Like I hate when I go out and see that. I'm like, this is awful. There should be like a no phone rule at the dinner table because we always had that growing up. And that wasn't even cell phones. That was like the dial off the wall phone.
The spin dial.
Right?
Remember
the spin dial, right? But like getting back, if everybody's craving connection, but they're craving it from like false sources. And so getting back into society and community and giving back, like people feel good when they give back to others. So find some way to give back, so reconnect with people in real life.
I love it. So much wisdom. Like I've gained so much out of this. No, really. Thank you for sharing those things. I know that's something that's just as a busy dad, entrepreneur, husband, like those hit on a lot of things. And I'm going to get my labs checked too. But yeah, they've never done that. I'm just thinking they're like, you're good. You're either high, low, or you're fine, but they don't really dive too much into anything else.
Yeah.
What's the vision with your business? Where do you want to take it? Are there any other audiences or groups you want to reach? Like where do you see this in a couple of years for you?
It's kind of funny because as I had burnout from the medical field and then started doing the entrepreneurship thing, I had no idea what I was doing. Like they don't teach any of that in nursing school for sure.
Yeah.
And if you had told me 20 years ago, you're going to be a business owner, I would have laughed and been like, yeah, right. So it was kind of, fly by the seat of my pants for a while. And it was a definite trial by error. So, I also got to a point where there was some burnout from that because I tried to do it all on my own. I thought I could be the assistant. I thought I could be the marketer. I could be the sales. I could be the, front person. I could be the back office person. Yeah. And found out the hard way that that's just no fun. And so bringing in the other people that this is their skill set. Let them do their skill set so that you can focus on your skill set. And so, the pandemic hit and I was like, cool, now I can focus on my back office because my front office just got shut down.
No office now.
There's no office. I can't go to my doctor's practices because they're all shut down. Yep. I can't do speaker engagements because nobody's doing them. And then I was like, oh, wait, I'm still an ICU nurse. I guess I got to go help with this pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I did that. And so, but what I realized was like, I kind of told people, I was like, I'm going into a business retirement. And I was like, I want to make my business successful again because it's like an entrepreneur's dream and nightmare at the same time for it to be more successful than you're ready for. And that's kind of where it went. I was like, holy crap, I don't know if I've got everything in line. And so I was like, if I start this back up again after this pandemic, I'm going to put systems in place. I'm going to hire an assistant and, I'm going to work with a bunch of other people and not try and do this as a solo act again. So that was my big lesson that I learned. And so now it's starting to kick back up again. And so a lot of my doctors are starting to get their practices going again. And they're trying to be like, are you coming out of retirement? Are you going to start working with me? And so it's cool because Border Patrol is definitely the big focus right now. Mm-hmm. I am getting a lot of conversations going with other people because people are like, I love what you're doing. Can you do it for us? And so we're getting a lot of reach out for that. We've got a lot of reach out from different police departments who are wanting us to come work with them now that they see what we're doing with Border Patrol. So that's fascinating. But what I've learned as an entrepreneur is like, some opportunities are not good opportunities. Like, you have to be still selective with who you work with, or you're just going to be miserable. And so if they're not your people, if they're not kind of people you want to help and work with, even if that paycheck looks real big, you're going to have a nightmare trying to make that all happen because you don't like working with those people.
Yeah.
And so I've learned to be more selective and be like, I know this sounds like an amazing deal. However, I'm going to be pulling my hair out for the next 6 weeks. Is this worth it? And so if it sucks your energy out, you're not going to have the energy you need to help. So it's an interesting place to be, but we're expanding and we're growing because we want to do more health talks. We want to do more health events because then we can reach a bigger group of people. When I was doing health coaching, it'd be me one-on-one. So they got a really in-depth, health evaluation with me, but I could only help so many people in a day, one-on-one. Whereas if we do group settings, then we can help more people. And if we do, huge events, it's not that specific one-on-one care, but it's able to reach a broader spectrum. And my goal is that if we teach them, they'll go home and teach their families. So I'm very much about bring your wife, bring your kids so they can hear the same thing kind of information. And so I know a lot of Border Patrol people are like, I wish my wife could have been here because if she had heard it from your mouth, it would be totally different than hearing it from me. I can't regurgitate what you've taught me in 8 hours when I go home. And so I'm like, yeah, absolutely. If you can get your whole family on board, it makes for a better win for everybody. And so we would love to have events where we could have more families come together because then you're more successful when everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask you too. You mentioned earlier in the conversation, you're a person of faith. Mm-hmm. So how does that play into your business and your day-to-day as you're going out to serve the people that you're serving?
Well, I wouldn't say follow me for sure. I'm like, definitely look up because I'm not a good example at all. Like I said, we just talked about our fuck it bucket, but, but definitely, it keeps me grounded. Like saying like, I don't have a lot of grounded in my life. It definitely helps keep me grounded. Like when the whole world looks like it's going to hell, there's still that one place you can go and look and say, okay, there's a bigger plan. There's a bigger purpose. Someone with more skill set than me is in control. Yeah. I just need to trust in it. And it also reminds me to not hate humanity.
Yeah.
Like I want to serve people and I want to help people. There's a certain group that you want to help and serve. And there's a certain group that you're like, I just want to take you out. So, it's finding that balance between hating humanity and wanting to help humanity. And like, if you constantly are watching the news or watching Instagram or stories or whatever, you start to go down this path of humanity sucks and life's gone to hell. And so getting away from that and actually reminding yourself and taking those timeouts to be like, okay, all right, God, let's have a one-on-one chat. And sorry about the curse word earlier,
But we're not perfect, right?
Right. And then I just remind myself, like, he knows, he created us. So, having just that place to go to get more love and more compassion and more empathy and reminders of like, okay, there's a bigger picture here. I need to use my skills for good. I need to look for the good in humanity. And so that's like my major thing when I go out in public. I'm like, you need to look for the good because we tend to focus on like the 3 bad people we run into. But what about the other 10 you ran into who were not? And that's how it is on the airplane too. Like, we have our 5 passengers that act a fool or something, but I have to remind myself there's 170 other people who didn't. And they sat down and they did what they're supposed to do and they were thankful and grateful. Yeah. I need to focus on those 170 and not the 5 that are acting a fool.
Well, and just think of our conversation. I'm like, wait, tell me about the best drama-filled Karen.
Right.
But let's wrap up and share what's been some of the most kind, amazing, loving display of humanity you've seen on an airplane or in your business with all of what you see with like just the ugliness, right?
Right.
Of like what Border Patrol goes through and like what's been some of the bright moments of hope that you've seen in people that stick out to you the most?
I just love the little things. Like it's the little things in life that actually have the most impact, I feel. And I just love seeing when like someone will help another person without even asking. And someone gives gratitude. And, you have all these amazing stories. Like there's a lot of amazing stories that come on an airplane. Like, why are you traveling? Where are you going? What did you see? Like, that's why I love travel. Like you just get the most fascinating people. And so, I can remember a couple stories where we have like veterans and people who've fought in wars and done all these crazy stuff. And they're going to their like reunion of the people, the lives that they've saved. And I just think that's so cool. And they've got their cute little veteran hat. And at this point, they're like 80s and 90s years old. Yeah. And they're just the sweetest people. And then we celebrate them and they're just like tearing up because it's like they've lived this huge life and they don't consider themselves a hero. But it's like you saved so many other people and now those people have kids and you're going to go meet their kids and their grandkids. And like, that's super cool.
Yeah.
And so those kind of stories are awesome. I mean, sometimes we have on the other side where people are going to a funeral and, they get through TSA and like, we all know how TSA is. And so it's stressful. And then they come on the plane and you're like, oh, I always ask, are you going for business, pleasure, or what are we going for? And they're like, oh, I'm actually going for a funeral. And you're like, oh, tell me about this person. And I want them to focus on the good. Like, tell me about their life. Like, what did they do? And all of a sudden they're like in a different mindset of, oh, I'm going to see my grandma. She's dead. And I'm like, well, tell me about her. What was she like? Yeah. And then they get telling you the stories of we'd always have tea together, or my grandma always walked me to school in the morning. And I'm like, that's really cool. And so it's kind of like a way to like, people don't realize, I don't know if this is all flight attendants, but that's kind of what I do. Is I want to know what people's lives got going on because there's so many fascinating stories. And then you know how it is at Southwest. If I find out a cool story and there's something I can do, we're going to put a production on.
You guys will exploit it in a good way. Like exploit it to bring joy to people, which is so amazing.
And so then we share it with the whole airplane, and it's kind of like a reminder to everybody else, like, okay, TSA wasn't fun, and it's not fun waiting to go to the airplane, and we were delayed an hour, but we rolled toilet paper down the aisle and we all cheered for it. It was great. Like, you never know what we're going to do on a plane.
I've never seen that. You roll toilet paper down the aisle?
Yeah, sometimes we'll do toilet paper races and stuff. Like if we're on a ground delay, we do all kinds of weird, crazy stuff just to pass the time. Like draw pictures of airplanes on the napkins. We'll have the pilots judge who's the best. Like, just whatever kind of keeps people in the, like, we're still traveling, we're still having fun mindset.
Love it. Shannon, thank you so much for coming on and for being here. Tons of insight, tons of wisdom, just joy to serve other people, which is the reason I reached out to you, because you were that for me when I met you on the airplane. Now, before we wrap up, when you came in here, we have our big color wall outside. You picked your favorite color. Everybody that comes on the show, we wrap up by leaving the statement that you want to leave with the world when you leave it. So you've got it here on the card. What do you have for us today?
I have it. I picked out one that's blue because it's my favorite color. So it says, and I don't know if this is my quote or if it's somebody's quoted it at some point in life, but I just signed my name to it. And it says, learn to laugh at yourself and with others. Because I think sometimes we take ourselves in life too seriously. And sometimes we need to just laugh. Like sometimes laughter is the best medicine. Yeah. At the end of the day, you just have to make light of the situation and say, okay, well, it is what it is. And I'm a very clumsy person. So laughing at yourself has become a very big part of just surviving life, because when you're going to be clumsy, you got to be able to make fun of your own self. You can't take it seriously. Like, I know I dress up cute, but I'll fall over my own feet sometimes. So, but learning to laugh at yourself and with others, because I know people say, don't laugh at others. Well, sometimes there's that too. Like, I will always, if you fall, I'm going to laugh and then I'm going to help you up. Like, it's just the way it is.
It's funny. We got to laugh.
We all laugh when other people fall. So when we fall ourselves, but then the important part is helping someone back up. Even if you're doing it as you're laughing, eventually they'll laugh about it too. You hope, as long as there's no injury.
Shannon, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Hey, if you're a faith-based father and you have a son who is entering into adolescence and manhood, you've got to check out an experience that we have June 2024. It is the father-son hike of a lifetime on the Camino de Santiago in Spain. I'm going to be taking a group of men and their sons over to Spain to hike some of the most beautiful scenery through northern Spain on the Camino de Santiago. We're going to hike 6 days, 70 miles, 200,000 steps, and have completely disconnected, unplugged, uninterrupted time with our sons. We are going to grow and bond and deepen our relationships with our sons through some very intentionally curated adventures, challenges, and experiences. And we're going to do so in the company of other faith-based men who have the same desire to grow and deepen their story with their son. If you're interested in this adventure with us, go to mattshoup.com, click the Go to Spain button, and check out the Father-Son Hike of a Lifetime.